Okay, so at that point there we've finished the mass model actually, and we're going to make good use of that mass model. A little bit later we're going to bring that mass model into another piece of software, Revit, which is going to be our main building information modelling system that we're going to be using for further documentation. So save that drawing now, do a quick save, make sure that's saved as cabin mass model. Then I want you to do a file save as, and this time I want you to save this, give it a file name cabin 1 detail or cabin 1 detail model, and save that file. And what we're going to do then is we're going to further develop this model into a much more detail with windows and doors and other features. But I didn't want to lose this model in its simplistic form like this at the moment, because we do need it to be saved just like that as well for importing into Revit. Okay, so we've saved this as cabin 1 detail model. I'll now continue to sort of do a little bit more detail on this. So I'll get you all to go and find the top view tool. It's in all your views, little series of little houses and all different views of it. There's a top-down view of a house there. That'll be your top view. And just zoom out, a fair way, and pan it so it's in the middle of the screen. Something about the proportions like I've got on the screen there. The next thing you'll have to do is you'll have to go up to the Window Preferences button, the Window toolbar, Preferences tool, and under Preferences, while we're here at the moment actually, there's something I would like to just share with you as well also, that if you go to the OpenGL section of Window Preferences, depending on your particular computer at home, etc., sometimes you might have to uncheck this button. If you're having trouble selecting and push-pulling faces, sometimes that's the graphics card in the computer can't handle the graphics style, so if you uncheck that there, you'll find it'll work fine. But in most cases, if your computer's running fine, this being checked would be the best. Okay, so we'll just select that like that. Now, once you've gone to Windows, I'll go back again, Window Preferences. The main reason why I wanted to come to Window Preferences was to go to the Extensions section. And under the Extensions section, I just want you to make sure that you've got both Dynamic Components selected and also Sandbox Tools selected. I'm not too concerned about any of the others. Then we'll click OK. Now, you might have to close and restart SketchUp again, so close down SketchUp and restart it again. So you can pause the video yourself at this stage if you need to do that. Now, I'm going to keep going now. Once you have closed and restarted SketchUp, you should then have the Sandbox tools available to you. You might have to go to View Toolbars and check the Sandbox tool that you've now got. And what that will end up looking like is this set of toolbars through here. I'll just pull it out onto the screen for the moment. It might come in like that, something like this, but you can decide to wherever you've got space, you can put that up on the top if you like. I have got space on the top, so I think I will in this particular case. Put it up there. That gives me a little bit more room on this sidebar, which we have got some other plug-in toolbars that are going to open up from time to time a bit later in the semester, so the fact that I've got a bit more room down in this toolbar is probably a good thing. But that's the Sandbox tools there. Now I'm going to show you this one from scratch to start with in this particular case here. I'm going to click Sandbox from scratch, and what I want to do straight away, you see down in the bottom right hand corner of my screen, the grid spacing is set to every 5 meters. I'm going to change that to a 1 meter grid, and then I'm going to come somewhere way out here, so way in front of the building, and come through. I don't think that 1 meter grid worked. I'm just going to escape out of that and come back again. Grid spacing should be 1, 2, 3, and press enter. and this should give me a 1 metre grid spacing from somewhere along here. Yeah, that's a much finer grid. Somewhere like there, you know, I'm going something like about 84, 85 metres, or at least 80 metres or something like that, in that direction, in the red axis direction. Then I'm going to go in the green axis direction, some 40 odd metres back in the other way. Okay, so you can then orbit, and what we've done is we've placed this gridded plane. The first thing I'm going to do with that gridded plane is select it. The whole plane gets selected, and I'm again going to move it in the blue axis direction. Make sure you get on blue axis. It's a bit hard for me to get through here, so I'll orbit around a bit differently. There I am, blue axis, and I'm going down 300. So you can see what I'm aiming at through here is we established our floor level to be 300 above ground, so I've moved this grid plane, which is going to be my ground, 300 millimeters down. Now, after you've established that grid has been turned into a component. There's a whole lot of individual lines and faces that have been turned into a component. Now, what you need to do to edit a component is double click on it. So I've double clicked on that component, and as you can see, everything else has been greyed out, and just this component is now in heavy. I'll go back to my sandbox tools, and the main one that you're going to want to use here is the smooth tool. When you use this smooth tool, it starts up, at the moment you can see it in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. I've got a radius of 7.5 meters. Now what that's portraying for us here is that as I click on one of these points here, I'm going to be able to move that in the blue axis direction, up or down, or in the direction normal to the surface anyway. I'm going to be able to move that point up a certain amount. Now that will move by that amount in the centre of that circle, and then fade out to be, and then all the points around it will also move with it, but fade out to be 0 by the time it gets to the edge of the circle. I'll just demonstrate what I mean somewhere in the centre here. I just pick that, and I'm going down in the blue axis direction, and see what it's doing. I can even type a distance that I'm going down, and that centre point that I originally selected is travelling down by that distance, but then around the edges of the circle it comes back to being nothing, and I can select it to go up as well. So you can sort of start playing and doing a little bit of landscaping around this block, and I'm going to initially go to something a rather large radius, like 15 metres. Press enter, and I'm going to come into this corner through here and just sort of tip it down. The trick with this, if you want to create something that looks a little bit more realistic, might change to 25 metres, is don't go too far, don't go too extreme with any of these moves. And particularly if you do them on the edges, you can start creating a slight undulating surface, and then you can. But what I want you to make sure you don't do, if I just change that radius again to something like 10 metres, is I want to keep the circle away from the outside face of our house. So I might just slightly undulate this terrain in a few areas around the building. Go a little bit higher in a little part there, and you can have a bit of a play with that until you get a shape around the building that you're happy with. Okay, so I'm just going to do a save at that point for that part of the model, and then select outside the sandbox terrain, and I'll just go and stop the video.